What would you do if you saw someone morph into an animal right before your eyes? In today's video, I'll let you in on the secrets of Skinwalker Ranch and tell you about some other haunted and cursed places you'll never want to visit. So grab your crucifix and let's get into it. The secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch in Utah has earned a reputation as one of the most mysterious and supernatural places on Earth. With stories of UFOs, paranormal sightings, and even shape-shifting monsters, it's no surprise that people have been fascinated by the area for decades. But what exactly is going on there? Is it aliens, ghosts, or just some overactive imaginations? The name Skinwalker is enough to give anyone the chills. The legend of the Skinwalker comes from Navajo culture, where it's said that witches can transform into animals or even people. These shape-shifting witches are not exactly the friendly kind. They're believed to be evil, capable of doing some pretty scary things. The Ute tribe, who also lived in the region, believed the Navajo had cursed the land with skinwalkers, and that's why people today think the ranch might still be haunted by these terrifying beings. In 1994, the Sherman family bought the ranch, probably thinking they'd found a peaceful countryside retreat. But boy, were they wrong. Almost immediately, they began experiencing terrifying phenomena. One of the most famous stories is when Terry Sherman encountered a giant wolf in his yard. This wasn't your average wolf. It was huge, like something out of a horror movie. Terry shot at it multiple times, but the bullets didn't seem to affect it. Eventually, the wolf wandered off, but when Terry tried to track it, the paw prints just vanished. Could this have been one of those legendary skinwalkers? That wasn't the only strange thing the Shermans dealt with. They saw flashing lights, mysterious objects flying through the sky, and heard voices with no apparent source. And what's even more terrifying is that their cattle were frequently found dead and mutilated, with no explanation for how or why. Unlike most horror movie families who stick around far too long, the Shermans decided to get out while they could. After just 2 years, they sold the ranch in 1996. And that's when Robert Bigelow, a millionaire obsessed with UFOs and all things paranormal, came into the story. He snapped up Skinwalker Ranch and turned it into a research hub for his National Institute for Discovery Science. You'd think with all his money and equipment, Bigelow would uncover the truth behind the ranch's mysteries, right? Not exactly. Though his team reported seeing odd creatures with glowing eyes and even more cattle mutilations, they never found concrete proof of anything supernatural. The peculiarities only continued from there. Over the years, more UFO sightings, glowing orbs, and mysterious illnesses have been reported by anyone who spent time at Skinwalker Ranch. Even when Bigelow sold the ranch in 2016, the new owner, Utah real estate mogul Brandon Fugel, continued the investigations. He even allowed the History Channel to film a reality show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, where a team of scientists try to get to the bottom of the mystery. So what's really going on here? There are a few theories, and some of them are pretty wild. One theory is that it's all a hoax. People are just making stuff up to get attention or sell books. But that doesn't seem likely, since the Shermans sold the ranch for a pretty average price, and they weren't looking to make a fortune off their spooky experiences. Another theory is that extraterrestrial visitors are behind it all. Bright lights, flying objects, weird voices, and precise cattle mutilations sure sound like something out of an alien invasion flick. Could it be aliens secretly hanging out at the ranch? Maybe. But a more out there theory is that these visitors aren't from outer space, but from another dimension. Maybe those flashing lights aren't spaceships, they're portals to a parallel universe. If that's the case, we've officially entered Marvel Cinematic Universe levels of weirdness. Last but not least, there's the theory that all these strange happenings are just in people's heads, caused by natural geophysical forces like tectonic shifts or magnetic fields. According to this theory, the land itself messes with people's brains, making them hallucinate UFOs, monsters, and everything in between. Could this be the case? Let me know what you think. Delela Cave on Penteli Mountain. Why do locals in Athens, Greece avoid the Delela Cave like the plague? Well, it might have something to do with the sheer amount of ghost stories and legends associated with it. But first, let's talk about Penteli Mountain, where the cave is tucked away. This place isn't just spooky, it's historical. The marble used to build a pantheon came from this mountain. There are still old tracks on the mountainside where carts once carried the heavy stone down to Athens. But the cave itself is what really captures people's attention. Named after a famous 19th century outlaw, Delela Cave was said to be the hideout for Delela and his gang. He was a Robin Hood type fellow, infamous for stealing from the wealthy. According to legend, secret tunnels from the cave led all the way to the mansion of a French duchess he supposedly loved. How romantic! Sadly, that part isn't true, but it sure makes the story more fun. Now, the cave really does contain a network of tunnels. One of them leads to a subterranean pond, while another is said to lead straight to hell. From the outside, the cave doesn't look too mysterious, but for years it's been the location of many bizarre sightings and events. There's even a rare double Byzantine church built directly into the rock. This isn't something you see every day. One side is dedicated to Saint Spiridon and the other to Saint Nicholas. The place was once a retreat for Christian hermits, but even before that it was a site where people worshipped the ancient god Pan. Yes, that Pan, the god of nature and rustic music, the half-man, half-goat. Archaeologists have found all kinds of ancient artifacts inside the cave, including carvings of Pan and his nymphs, which are now on display in the Archaeological Museum of Athens. Oh, and did I mention that they also found a naturally mummified body of a woman? Her remains are now kept at the local Museum of Criminology. But that's not all. Over the years, people have reported strange occurrences in and around Delela Cave. Electronics go haywire, water seems to defy gravity and flow upwards, and, get this, there are even sightings of cat-like creatures walking on two legs. What in the world? In the 19th century, folks claimed to hear disembodied voices coming from deep within the cave, and others heard music that had no apparent source. By the 1960s and 70s, paranormal investigators had gained an interest in the cave and started looking into it. In 1977, things got even weirder when a group of technicians showed up and claimed to work for an unknown organization. These workers put up barbed wire around the entrance to the cave and began to work on it using bulldozers and dynamite. Some theories say these men must have been working for the US government, NATO, or the Greek military. People speculate that they were constructing some sort of nuclear weapons storage facility or bunker. Other theories claim that these workers had somehow opened up an extra-dimensional portal. This is supported by the story of a married couple who went on a hike near the cave shortly after the technicians began their work. The couple claimed to have stumbled upon a vehicle perched on a ledge near the cave, somewhere it seemed impossible for the car to reach. Over the next couple days, they went back to the same location to find the car in the same spot. Oddly enough, the vehicle did not bear any marks of damage that would be expected of a car in that position. Then one day, the wife started screaming after looking into some bushes near the car. She said that she saw a white oval-shaped creature with two giant glowing eyes. The husband didn't see the creature, but he did say that he saw the bushes rustling as if something had just moved through them. A few days later, the husband claimed to see a spinning black sphere out his car window, causing him to shake and scream until his wife managed to calm him down. Explanations for these unusual occurrences range from disturbances in the local electromagnetic fields to paranormal hauntings. But the truth is that nobody really knows what's going on here. So if you're ever in Athens and feeling brave, you could check out Delela Cave. Just don't be surprised if your phone starts acting weird or you spot something strange in the shadows. The cursed tomb of King Casmir IV Jagiellon. Tombs aren't just cursed in Egypt, they're also cursed in Poland. When will we learn to let the dead rest? In 1973, a group of Polish archaeologists made an exciting discovery. They were allowed to open the tomb of King Casmir IV Jagiellon. He was a powerful and successful ruler of Poland from the 15th century. Little did they know their excitement would soon turn to fear, as several members of the group began to die mysteriously. It's a story that mirrors the famous curse of King Tut's tomb in Egypt, where people who opened the tomb fell ill and kicked the bucket. So, was King Casmir's tomb cursed too? Let's dive into the story. King Casmir IV Jagiellon was one of Poland's greatest rulers. Born in 1427, he became the Grand Duke of Lithuania and later the King of Poland, leading the country to important victories. For example, he defeated the Teutonic Order in the 13 Years' War. Under his rule, Poland became a stronger, wealthier nation, and Casimir earned a reputation as one of Europe's most influential kings. But Casimir died in 1492, the same year Columbus set sail for America. His body was buried in a wooden coffin inside Wawel Castle's chapel. Fast forward 500 years and a team of archaeologists opened his tomb. What they found wasn't just history, but also danger. Shortly after the tomb was opened, 4 of the 12 researchers died, and many others fell ill over the following years. This led people to wonder if Casimir's tomb was bedeviled. The media went wild with stories of the curse, comparing it to the infamous curse of King Tut. But was it really a curse? Well, not quite. Scientists eventually discovered the true culprit, a fungus called Aspergillus flavus. This fungus, which can be deadly when inhaled, had been growing inside Casimir's tomb for centuries. When the tomb was opened, the fungus was released, attacking the researchers who had weaker immune systems. Some developed infections, strokes, and even cancer. In total, around 15 people connected to the tomb's excavation died. The fungus wasn't alone. Other dangerous molds like Penicillium rubrum and Penicillium rugulosum were also found. These molds produce toxins that, when inhaled, could cause serious health problems. Researchers are more cautious when exploring ancient tombs today, especially ones that may be harboring dangerous fungi. But the story of King Casmir IV's tomb still lingers in the public imagination. Was it really just a deadly fungus, or did the king's spirit take revenge on those who disturbed his eternal rest? Although scientists have debunked the curse, tour guides still tell the eerie tale of a king who didn't want to be disturbed, just like the story of Tutankhamun's curse in Egypt. And now for a quick break, but first I wanted to give a shout out and big thank you to John V and Sir Lancelot for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Hoia Baciu Forest. Picture this, you're walking through a forest, there's an eerie silence with trees twisted like skeletons. The Hoia Baciu Forest is surrounded by an unsettling vibe that makes you feel like you're being watched from every direction. This place is Romania's very own Bermuda Triangle. This mysterious 700-acre forest is filled with stories of haunted happenings, disappearances, and even alien encounters. So what's the deal with this creepy woodland, and why is it considered one of the most haunted places on Earth? Legend has it that the haunting of Hoia Baciu started centuries ago when a group of peasants vanished into the forest without a trace. Kind of like a Transylvanian version of the Roanoke colony. Did they just get lost, or did something far more sinister happen? No one knows for sure, but it wasn't long before more strange things started happening. The forest's reputation really kicked into high gear in the 1960s thanks to a biologist named Alexandru Sift who snapped photos of mysterious UFOs hovering above the trees. That's right, UFOs. This only added to the forest's growing reputation as a hotspot for weird happenings. People began to believe that Hoia Baciu was not only haunted but also a magnet for paranormal activity. And it's been known as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania ever since. One of the most famous tales from the forest is about a shepherd who supposedly entered with 200 sheep and disappeared without a trace. Poof, gone. Another story is about a little girl who vanished in the woods and reappeared years later, without aging a day. Oh, and she still had a 15th century coin in her pocket like no time had passed at all. And if that's not enough to spook you, visitors have reported experiencing all sorts of strange symptoms after leaving the forest. Some feel just a general sense of unease, while others have had more physical reactions like rashes, headaches, and even burns. So what's going on? Some scientists think it might have something to do with the forest's soil, which has been found to contain higher levels of radioactivity. Possibly thanks to natural uranium deposits. But does that really explain the vanishing people and UFO sightings? I'll let you be the judge. Despite all the paranormal buzz, not everyone who visits Hoia Baciu has a supernatural experience. In fact, many people come for the beautiful hiking trails and leave without a single ghostly encounter. But for those who are brave or curious enough, the forest offers haunted tours where you can see the eeriest spots firsthand. So is Hoia-Baciu truly a gateway to the unknown, or is it simply a product of human imagination and natural phenomena? Perhaps the forest's secrets will forever remain a mystery. Leap Castle and the Chapel of Horrors. Are you ready to hear a real-life horror story about a castle and its haunted past? Prepare yourself because things are about to get real dark. Leap Castle in Ireland was built around 1250 AD. It has a long history of violence, betrayal, and death. The O'Carroll clan, who took control of the castle from the O'Bannon's family, were especially ruthless. But the castle's bloody history began even before it was built. The O'Bannon brothers, who were fighting for control of their clan, leaped off the rocky site where the castle now stands. The surviving brother claimed the leadership role and then named the castle Leam Uy Banain, meaning Leap of the Bannons. However, the O'Carroll clan, who were even more powerful, seized the castle from the O'Bannons and kept it for centuries. If you think that was bad, wait until you hear what the O'Carrolls did to their own family. The most infamous event in Leap Castle's history happened in 1532. The leader of the clan, Mulrooney O'Carroll, died, sparking a bloody power struggle. During Mass in the castle's chapel, now known as the Bloody Chapel, Tiger O'Carroll stabbed his brother Thaddeus in the back as he stood at the altar. Thaddeus died right there in front of his horrified family. His ghost still haunts the Bloody Chapel. People report seeing strange lights and feeling a sinister presence in the room. The violence didn't stop with Thaddeus, though. The O'Carrolls also betrayed the McMahon clan, who had trained them in new war techniques. After winning a battle, the O'Carrolls threw a feast to celebrate, but they poisoned the food, killing off the McMahons so they wouldn't have to pay them. Unsurprisingly, the McMahon clan's ghosts are said to haunt the castle to this day, and they're furious about their betrayal. One of the most terrifying discoveries in the castle was made in the 1920s, when workers found a hidden dungeon called an oubliette, which means to forget in French. Prisoners were thrown into this pit and left to die, impaled on wooden spikes at the bottom. Over 150 skeletons were found in the oubliette, along with a pocket watch from the 1800s. This meant that the dungeon had been used much more recently than anyone had thought. Some visitors today feel an overwhelming urge to throw themselves into the oubliette, as if the spirits are calling to them. Speaking of spirits, Leap Castle is full of ghosts. One of the most famous is the Red Lady, a tall, tragic figure who roams the halls carrying a dagger. According to legend, she was a victim of one of the O'Carrolls who assaulted her and killed her child. Heartbroken, she took her own life with the same dagger. Others claim she was chased and stabbed to death while trying to escape. Either way, she's not someone you want to run into on a dark night in the castle. There's also the terrifying entity known as the Elemental. This ancient, non-human spirit might have been summoned by the Druids who once lived on the land. Some believe it was called upon to protect the sacred land before the castle was built, while others think it was cursed by arrival of the O'Carrolls. The Elemental is rarely seen, but when it does appear, it brings with it the stench of death and decay. Mildred Darby, who lived in the castle in the early 1900s, claimed to have seen it and described it as a shadowy, sheep-sized figure with a human-like but grotesque face. She said its eyes were decomposing and filled with some kind of lust. Sounds like pure nightmare fuel if you ask me. Leap Castle, even with its dark past, is still standing today thanks to Sean Ryan, a musician who purchased the castle in 1991 and restored it. Though he and his wife live alongside the many spirits of the castle, they've never seen the Elemental, and that's probably for the best. Do you think you could live in a haunted castle? Let me know in the comments. The Red Island. Who says ghost towns are just for Halloween? Al Jazirat Al Hamra, or the Red Island, is a deserted village in the UAE with a spooky story that will make your skin crawl. This place was once a bustling pearl diving town. You know, where people would dive into the sea to collect pearls. But today, it's deserted, frozen in time, surrounded by modern resort cities and malls. The village was established in the early 1800s by the Zarb tribe, who thrived in the pearl trade. But by the 1960s, after the pearl industry collapsed, the town was abandoned. Residents left behind empty houses, mosques, and shops, with furniture still sitting in place, waiting for people who would never return. So why exactly did everyone leave? And why does this place feel so haunted? Some say it's because of the jinn, ancient supernatural spirits from Arabian folklore who are believed to haunt the area. Locals tend to avoid the village, and anyone who has visited will tell you there's an undeniable sense that you're not alone. People often report feelings of being watched or seeing shadowy figures lurking in the streets. Others speak of strange lights flickering inside abandoned homes and even cats that vanish into thin air. But the most chilling tales are about the jinn. These mysterious creatures, sometimes called genies, are nothing like the friendly wish-granting version from Disney's Aladdin. Jinn are known to be powerful and unpredictable. They're shapeshifters, tricksters, and sometimes downright scary, responsible for misfortune, possession, and even knocking out visitors. In fact, many old fishermen and pearl divers from Al Jazeerat Al Hamra have shared stories about strange encounters with jinn. One old fisherman, Saif Rashid, told of how he would hear the jinn clapping while diving for pearls. He said the jinn could take the form of a fish and, if touched, would electrocute the divers, causing them to faint underwater. Sometimes divers would be possessed by the jinn, speaking in eerie voices. Other tales tell of jinn taking the shape of animals like goats or cats, even transforming right before people's eyes. Imagine seeing a goat talk, then turn into something else. You would never be the same. Though most locals don't like to talk about the jinn, enough stories have leaked out over the years to give Al Jazeerat Al Hamra its haunted reputation. Some believe that modern development, cars, and technology have driven the jinn away, but others aren't so sure. Today, efforts are being made to restore the village and turn it into a heritage site, but who knows how long the jinn will tolerate the intrusion. The Phantom Choir of Roan Mountain. What would you do if, while on a solo hike, you begin to hear what appears to be ghostly wails coming from nowhere and everywhere at the same time? It doesn't seem very likely, but visitors to Roan Mountain have experienced just that. Roan Mountain, a 5-mile ridge along the border of North Carolina and Tennessee, has more than just beautiful views and rhododendrons to offer. There's a legend about this mountain that might make you think twice before hiking its slopes. Known for its mysterious Phantom Choir, Roan Mountain has been the subject of supernatural stories since settlers first started hearing strange voices in the wind. The mountain's windy ridges have been howling for centuries, but it's what people believe the wind is carrying that's truly spooky. Some say that at the highest points you can hear voices singing, but are these voices heavenly or horrifying? Some folks claim the sounds are like an angelic choir practicing for Judgment Day. Others, though, think the voices are more sinister, likening them to the tormented cries of souls trapped in hell. In 1878, Colonel John T. Wilder, a Civil War veteran, decided Roan Mountain was the perfect spot for a luxury hotel. He built the Cloudland Hotel right on the mountaintop, hoping tourists would flock to the area for its cool air and stunning views. And boy, did they. The hotel was famous for sitting directly on the border between North Carolina and Tennessee. People had fun with the idea that they could be in two states at the same time. Alcohol was banned in North Carolina, but not in Tennessee, so a white line was painted down the dining room, dividing the drinking zones. But it wasn't just drinks and views that visitors enjoyed. Many reported hearing the strange, eerie sounds of the Phantom Choir. One visitor, Henry E. Colton, a geologist, claimed the sounds he heard were like the hum of 1,000 bees. Maybe it was just the wind, or maybe the mountain has its own secret soundtrack. Not everyone was lucky enough to hear bees, though. Another guest, a young man, hiked out during a storm, against warnings of course, and ended up hearing unearthly moans. He took refuge in a cave, only to be surrounded by terrifying visions of tortured souls. Screams filled the air and the man fainted from fear. When he woke up, his clothes were bleached white and he was convinced he'd seen hell. Not exactly the relaxing mountain getaway he had planned. To this day, hikers still claim to hear the voices after thunderstorms, with some hearing angels and others hearing demons. Whether it's just the wind or something supernatural, one thing is clear: there's something strange happening on Roan Mountain. But if ghostly choirs aren't enough for you, Roan Mountain is also one of the few places where you can witness a full circular rainbow. Yes, that's right. Rainbows aren't just arcs, they're full circles, but you usually can't see them unless you're flying. On Roan Mountain, under the right conditions, you can spot this rare phenomenon from the ground. Legends of Charles Island. Imagine a place where pirates, Native American spirits, and Aztec curses collide. Well, that's Charles Island for you. This place is haunted by not one, not two, but three curses. The first one involves the famous pirate Captain William Kidd. This guy wasn't your typical pirate. He was actually hired as a privateer to hunt down enemy ships. But when things didn't go well, he turned to piracy. According to legend, as he was sailing from New York to Boston in the late 1690s, Kidd stashed some of his treasure on Charles Island to keep it safe. But guess what? He didn't just bury his loot, he cursed it. Now anyone who tries to find and take it is doomed. If you're wondering whether this treasure is real, we don't actually know. While treasure hunters have tried to uncover it, they have had no luck. But the stories remain, and they date all the way back to the 1830s. One tale says a group of kids tried to dig up the treasure, only to be scared off by a horrifying sight: a headless ghost. Their spades vanished, and the ground was mysteriously smooth the next day. The second curse comes from a Native American chief named Ansantaway from the Wepawak tribe. The stories vary. One says he cursed the island after selling it to settlers, while another claims he cursed it after his daughter was kidnapped. Either way, this curse supposedly keeps the land forever doomed. Is there any historical proof for this? Not really. It's just one of those stories that popped up online and caught fire. The third curse involves stolen Aztec treasure. The legend says that after the treasure of Aztec ruler Guatemazin was stolen, the thieves rowed it out to Charles Island to bury it. But of course, because nothing on this island is ever easy, this treasure too is cursed. The story doesn't have a lot of historical backing, but it makes for a neat addition to the island's legacy. So why are these curses such a big deal? Well, it turns out Charles Island inspired local authors like Marissa D'Angelo, who has written several books centered around its spooky history. D'Angelo claims to have experienced unexplained phenomena while visiting the island, including eerie encounters with a priest who mysteriously knew details about her life. What would you do if some stranger came up to you and started telling you random things about your life they shouldn't know? Run? Ask them to tell you your future? Let me know down below. The Ancient Ram Inn. Would you dare spend a night at a haunted inn where the spirits of the past still roam? England's Ancient Ram Inn dates back to around 1145 AD. Some say it was once a place where workers from the nearby parish church rested their weary heads. Others claim it served as a priest's residence before transforming into a bustling inn. But after closing its doors in 1968, the inn began a new chapter as a haunted hotspot. When John Humphreys bought the Ancient Ram Inn after it closed, he faced countless challenges in trying to preserve this piece of history. The building wasn't just old, it was downright spooky. Visitors often describe an overwhelming sense of dread as they step inside. One man said the atmosphere at the inn is so awful that it could be compared to a dark, heavy weight pressing down on your chest. But what is it that makes this place so terrifying? Well, let me take you on a little tour of this place of horror. The first stop is the men's kitchen. It's rumored to be built on a pagan burial ground. Here, people often hear the unsettling sound of a baby crying. As guests climb the steep staircase to this room, they report feeling as if invisible hands are pushing them up, which is definitely not the kind of service you want at an inn. Next up is the infamous bishop's room, which is regarded as the most haunted spot in the inn. A medium opened the door to this room once, only to be lifted off the ground and thrown across the hallway. You couldn't pay me to stay after something like that. This room has its fair share of creepy residents. A ghostly cavalier has been seen roaming around, and the spirits of two monks have been reported hanging out in a corner. But things get even darker. Witnesses also claim to hear the screams of a man who met a gruesome end in the bishop's room. And let's not forget the attic. This is where the ghost of an innkeeper's daughter, who is said to have been murdered in the 1500s, lingers. Visitors lying in the bishop's room below often hear strange dragging noises overhead, keeping them up at night. The ghost city of Bangar, the curse of the holy man. There's a city in India that's so haunted, people are banned from entering the site between sunset and sunrise. According to the locals, anyone who dares to stay there after dark never comes back. The ghost city of Bangar was established in 1573 by King Bhagwan Das for his son. This wasn't some rinky-dink settlement either. It was complete with temples, palaces, and gates. It sits at the foot of a mountain, and though it looks beautiful from a distance, the place is full of dark energy. By 1783, the city was completely abandoned, and the locals had moved to safer grounds nearby, leaving behind what's now called Bhoot Bangla, or the House of Ghosts. One of the main legends that haunts Bangar involves a holy man named Baba Banat. Before the city was built, Banat lived there and gave the rulers permission to construct the fort, but with one very specific rule. The buildings couldn't cast a shadow over his abode. Seems like a simple request, right? Well, things went south when a descendant prince built his palace so high that it did cast a shadow. And what did Banat do? He cursed the entire city. It's said that Bangar was doomed because of this curse, and that Baba Banat might still be resting or haunting the area to this day. But that's not the only ghostly tale associated with the city. Another story involves a wizard named Singya who had a not-so-secret crush on Princess Ratnavati, the princess of Bangar. He cast a spell on her perfume, hoping that if she touched it, she would fall madly in love with him. But the princess wasn't fooled. She saw right through his trickery. Singya was so furious that his plan failed, the wizard cursed the whole city. Some people even believe that Singya's ghost still haunts Bangar, waiting for the day Ratnavati might return to break the curse. With tales like these, it's no wonder the government has forbidden entry after dark. The city, shrouded in an eerie silence, seems to hold its breath, waiting for the next unsuspecting visitor to dare to cross its threshold. Is it the curse of Baba Banat, the wrath of Singya, or simply the weight of history that keeps Bangar forever haunted? Only the brave or the foolish dare to find out. The petroglyphs of Rockart Ranch. The walls tell stories of ancient times at the Rockart Ranch in Arizona. This private cattle ranch near Holbrook holds over 3,000 petroglyphs, ancient graffiti left by Native American groups thousands of years ago. Imagine walking through a 2-mile stretch of canyon and seeing drawings of people, animals, and strange symbols that date back as far as 5000 BC. Some of these petroglyphs are easy to interpret, while others leave you with an eerie feeling. In one drawing, there's a symbol that looks oddly similar to a strand of DNA. What could these ancient people be trying to tell us? For all we know, they were trying to warn us of some type of genetic curse. The land itself is sacred, with a history of being home to hunters, gatherers, and farmers for over 13,000 years. It's not just the art that's impressive, though. Visitors can explore Anasazi ruins, Navajo hogans, huts made of logs and earth, and even a sweat lodge. There's also a small museum featuring Native American artifacts, plus some cowboy and pioneer items if you're looking for a little Old West flair. The best part? The walk to see these ancient drawings is pretty easy, so almost anyone can enjoy it. Have you ever stumbled upon what you thought were ancient petroglyphs while taking a walk or hike? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.